Welcome to Copilot Podcasts. Imagine waking up one day to discover you're actually a copy of someone else, with all their memories, powers, and sense of responsibility, but none of the legitimacy. Today, we're diving into one of Marvel's most fascinating characters, Ben Reilly, the clone who became a hero in his own right. We'll explore his complex journey, his unique identity struggles, and why fans still fight for his redemption decades later.
And what a journey it's been. Ben Reilly's story is really a testament to how a character can transcend their original purpose. He was actually created back in 1975 by Jerry Conway as a one-off character in Amazing Spider-Man, NUC 149.
Wait, really? Just a one-off character? How did he become such a significant part of Spider-Man's mythology then?
Well, that's where it gets interesting. See, Ben was created by Miles Warren, also known as the Jackal, who was this biology professor obsessed with Gwen Stacy. He blamed Spider-Man for her death and created clones of both Peter and Gwen to torment him.
That's pretty dark for a Spider-Man story.
Oh, absolutely. But here's where Ben's story gets unique. Instead of becoming a villain, he chose to be a hero. He took his own path, even naming himself after Uncle Ben and Aunt May's maiden name, Riley.
You know, speaking of identity, I've always wondered, how different is Ben from Peter? I mean, they share the same memories up to a point, right?
That's actually one of the most fascinating aspects of Ben's character. While they share early memories, Ben developed his own distinct personality. According to various sources, he's actually more optimistic and less burdened than Peter.
More optimistic? How so?
Well, Silver Sable once noted that Ben approached being a superhero with almost pure joy. Unlike Peter, who often sees his powers as a burden, Ben genuinely loved being Spider-Man.
That's such an interesting contrast. It's like he got all the power and responsibility without the weight of tragedy that shaped Peter.
You know, that reminds me of something fascinating about superhero costumes. When Ben became the Scarlet Spider, he created this unique look with a hoodie over his costume. It was totally different from the traditional spandex approach.
Oh yeah, that blue hoodie became iconic. But let's talk about his time actually being Spider-Man. How did that happen?
Right, so in the mid-90s, Peter Parker decided to retire when Mary Jane became pregnant. He actually asked Ben to take over as Spider-Man.
And how did Ben handle that responsibility?
Remarkably well, actually. He created his own Spider-Man costume, fought classic villains like Mysterio and Venom, and even earned the respect of heroes like Daredevil and the Human Torch.
But it didn't last, did it?
No, it didn't. In a confrontation with Norman Osborn, the Green Goblin, Ben was fatally wounded. He died saving Peter's life, proving himself a true hero in the end.
That's pretty heavy. But that wasn't actually the end of Ben's story, was it?
No, and this is where things get complicated. Ben was later resurrected by the Jackal, who repeatedly killed and revived him to perfect his cloning technology. It, really took a toll on Ben's mental state.
That sounds horrific. How did he cope with that trauma?
Not well. He actually became increasingly unstable, even taking on the Jackal's identity himself at one point. It's been a controversial direction for the character.
You know, it's interesting how comic books use cloning as a storytelling device. It really taps into our fears about identity and authenticity.
Absolutely. And Ben's story particularly resonates because he's not just fighting supervillains, he's fighting for his right to exist as his own person.
Did he ever get a chance at redemption?
He did, briefly. He moved to Las Vegas and tried to restart his career as the Scarlet Spider. But Marvel seems to struggle with giving Ben a consistent direction.
Why do you think that is?
Well, according to recent discussions, Marvel editor Tom Brevoort felt it made sense to position Ben as Peter's dark opposite. But many fans disagree with this approach.
It's fascinating how passionate fans are about this character.
Oh yeah, social media is full of people saying Ben deserves better. There's this strong sentiment that Marvel's doing both the character and his fans a disservice.
What do you think makes fans so invested in Ben?
I think it's because Ben represents something unique, someone who chooses to be a hero despite knowing they're a copy. He's not destined for it, he actively chooses it.
That's a powerful message.
And you know what's really interesting? Ben actually outsold many other Spider-Man related characters during his peak in the 90s.
Really? That must have surprised Marvel.
It did. The Clone Saga was originally meant to be much shorter, but they extended it because Ben was so popular with readers.
What happened after that?
Well, recently, Ben became a character called Chasm and was actually imprisoned in the Limbo Embassy in New York City. It's been quite a journey.
That's quite a fall from grace for someone who was once Spider-Man.
Yeah, but here's what's fascinating. Despite all these controversial changes, Ben still maintains a dedicated fan base who remember his heroic days.
What do you think that says about the character's impact?
I think it shows that Ben Reilly represents something important to readers. The idea that our origins don't define us, that we can choose our own path.
Even if we're literally created to be someone else.
Exactly. And that's what makes his current storyline so frustrating for fans. They feel like they betray that core message.
Do you think there's hope for Ben's character moving forward?
Well, comics are cyclical. Characters fall and rise again. Look at Bucky Barnes or Jason Todd. Both came back from controversial storylines stronger than ever.
That's a good point about comic book characters getting second chances.
And Ben's already proven he can reinvent himself. He went from being a throwaway clone to the Scarlet Spider to Spider-Man himself.
It's interesting how his story mirrors real-life struggles with identity and purpose.
Absolutely. I mean, who hasn't felt like they're living in someone else's shadow at some point?
Or question their place in the world.
Right. And that's why Ben's original arc was so powerful. He found his own identity despite literally being a copy of someone else.
Do you think that's why fans are so protective of him?
Definitely. They see Ben as proof that you can overcome any circumstance and still choose to be a hero.
Even if the world keeps trying to tell you you're just a copy.
Exactly. And maybe that's the real tragedy of Ben's current situation. It feels like the comics themselves are telling him he can't escape his clone status.
When his whole appeal was proving the opposite.
You've got it. Ben Reilly showed us that being a hero isn't about where you come from, it's about the choices you make.
That's a pretty powerful legacy for a character who was supposed to be a one-off clone.
And maybe that's the most Spider-Man thing about him. He turned what could have been a curse into a gift.
With great power comes great responsibility, even if that power came from a test tube.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Well, that brings us to the end of today's episode of Copilot Podcasts. Remember, whether you're an original or a copy, it's your choices that define who you are.
And sometimes the best heroes are the ones who have to fight the hardest to prove they deserve the title.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into one of Marvel's most complex and compelling characters. Until next time, keep swinging.